Wow, you woke me up. That was beautiful. Welcome, welcome one and all. I'm Bertie Welty. I'm your worship leader for this morning. And welcome to those here and those gathered on Zoom. We are currently a lay-led congregation without a minister, and yet we have some fantastic staff and a lot of wonderful people. So gather together on this land, which is the ancestral lands of the Wiyot people. We try to be good stewards of this land and try to help the Wiyot tribe retribution for occupying this space. And today's service is about ministry. What our ministers are, what are the options as we go forth in a quest to just rediscover who we are as a congregation and what it is that best suits us. So welcome one and all. This month's Soul Matters topic is courage. And I bring this poem as a call to worship. It is by the Reverend Gretchen Haley. There is a quiet courage. I'm using a lapel mic, not regular mic. Yeah, it's great. It's much clearer. Oh, for the Zoom people, okay. The Zoom people, but this mic's off. There is a quiet courage in the choice to let go of the past, in the choice to be present in this new day, to live for this hour, this moment, and to believe in its possibilities, to release the regrets, to stop spinning stories of what was and what is no longer, to accept this gift, to believe that we are worthy still of happiness, of ease, of delight, and hope, to believe that we already have all we need to heal and to receive this wholeness with ready hearts and open hands, saying only thank you. Come, let us practice this surrender together, gathering up all the brave boldness we know can be found in our bones and blood. If we breathe together, knowing ourselves as a part of this one life filled with mystery, creativity, and power, changing us, growing us, and calling us into partnership with all that is, come, let us worship together. And now, if you will join me in renewing our aspiration, which can be found in your orders of service and on the screen for those of you on Zoom. May love be the spirit of this fellowship. May the quest for truth be a sacrament and service be its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, and to help one another in fellowship. This is our aspiration. And now we're going to do something we haven't done for a while. We're going to open our hymnals. Wait a minute. Did they get passed down? Okay. Hymnals on their way. But we're going to sing softly with our mask on, so to be protective. Number 361. Oh, I guess I will take one. I will take one. Only safe if all of us keep our masks fully on when we're singing.
We're encouraged to have our masks off if we're talking. That's been a rule here for a long time.
When you come up here and talk, briefly off, but not while singing. And otherwise, we're going to have to go back to no singing, no hymnals. So,
I think she's doing.
yeah, it's time for me to talk, so I will take mine off. And now for the story for all ages, Jessalyn is going to lead us.
Well, I can stand. Yeah. That way we're not crowded. Testing, 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 testing.
Oh, don't pass them off. The little thing turns off. There we go.
But can you hear me? Yes, I do. Hello, good morning. Today, Bertie has picked a wonderful book called A World of Possibilities. So in thinking about all our possibilities, we also want to take a moment to pause in our days. This is a fun book. A pause ability is taking a pause just for you to stop and notice what you feel, think, and do. A pause is being in the moment and giving yourself a break. There's no wrong way to pause, so it's hard to make a mistake. Some pauses are silent, while some keep you moving. Pauses should be calming so things can start improving. Come, let's explore a world of possibilities. Take a breath deep from your belly and let it out slow. Relax your muscles until they feel like dough. Have something yummy and healthy to eat. Notice the flavor. Is it salty or sweet? Go outside and take a walk. Listen to silence. Try not to talk. Let the rays of the sun warm your body and face. Take time to slow down. There's no reason to race. Draw, paint, color, or just doodle. Make your body limp like a spaghetti noodle. Wear your favorite and most comfortable clothes. Be in this moment and wiggle your toes. Can you wiggle your toes? Can't see mine, but they're wiggling. Be good to your body and to your brain. Take the time to listen to the sound of the rain. Turn off all things that have a screen. Splash your face with warm water and make it clean. See your reflection and make a huge smile, even if we have masks on. Smiling makes us feel good, and that lasts for a while. Say something nice to yourself about you. You are kind, smart, and other wonderful things too. Reach your arms to the floor and take a bow. Gently. Taking a pause. Focus on what's happening right now. Stretch up as far as you can reach. Then step barefoot in the grass or the sand at the beach. We can use our imaginations. Notice the wind when it blows through your hair. Take a pause on your bed or in a soft chair. Remember a funny story or a silly joke. Visit a furry friend. Give them a gentle stroke. Find someone you love and ask for a hug. Wrap yourself in a blanket so you feel comfy and snug. So everyone take a moment and just give yourself a nice snug hug. Always makes us feel better. Accept what you're feeling as neither right nor wrong. Taking a pause will make your mind and body strong. Taking a pause does not have to be hard. Taking a pause in your room, at school, on the bus, or in your yard, anywhere you are. Taking a pause is easy, you see. Making time to pause and practicing is key. Have you learned how to take a pause? If so, give yourself a round of applause. Yeah. When dealing with life's difficulties, stop and think about a world of possibilities. Can you come up with other possibilities? Just let them flow. They are endless possibilities. What's in your world of possibilities? And that lets us think. Thank you.
So now let us pause. Look around, look on the screen at the other faces. These are your people. One of our traditions here is that we share our joys and concerns. And we share heartfelt things, things that really make a difference in our lives in a very, very brief manner, that the ripples will go out to everyone in this room, and that we can hold you in a gentle embrace. Those of you in the room, if you'd line up over here, take a stone, come up, drop it in our community bowl of understanding. Speak into the mic, which we will turn back on. This mic you have to kind of swallow. And those people on Zoom, put your concerns and joys in the chat, and Anna will read them.
Hi, my name's Sina, wearing 2 masks. I am tremendously thankful that I got through COVID with very little problem. Thank you. And I have a rash that's got to go away, but they said I'm not contagious. They just said to wear a mask, which can help other people. And on the subject of masks, I make masks. I've made them for 2 years, and I have a bunch out there on the podium that are free. They're double, and they also have a liner up here in them. So take them, they're free. And this part is, might be attached, no. Most of the ones out there, you can pull it through, and you can retie it to the size of your ear, possibly, and in a square knot so it'll hold, and then just slide it through the sleeve. And so, and I think, some of the people, when I was having COVID, they gave me an email, and all they had was a telephone number on it, and I didn't know who it was from. But thank you, whoever gave me a lot of support through this. It was really nice.
Hi, I'm Debbie. A big part of my spiritual path is about the turning of the seasons, the year, and the markings of them. And today is our annual apple pressing day, so it just feels very much like fall to me.
Though I haven't got all the names of those wonderful spirits that are around us, if this room were filled with those spirits in daylight, well, life, like it would fill every chair in here and we'd be overflowing. They were wonderful spirits. I can see some of them over here and all around us. And I'm sure you can remember some names that I probably couldn't remember. Anyway, they're here in the room with us. I find that if I go ahead and look in the eyes of the people that I'm with, I can see the spirits with them that we have shared in past lives. Thank you.
Okay, let's see Zoom folks. We have From Jenny Hansen, thank you all for your ongoing embracing presence in my life as I sit with you on Zoom. We have Archie and Sue. Thank you, Beverly Morgan, Lewis, and Sylvia Shaw, and others who bannered yesterday for Black Lives Matter and for climate action. Allison Bronkall says, sending thoughts of love and comfort to my friend Linda Vinson, whose dear cat is making his transition at home. Another from Archie and Sue, all good thoughts and healing energy for those in our fellowship who are under the weather. Debbie, Tom, Anna Mae, and Laurel. And that's all from Zoom for today.
I have a few pebbles. One for my brother who is recovering from a massive heart attack and quadruple bypass surgery. He's now in VA rehab. So it will be a long recovery. This for my neighbor who is having ankle surgery tomorrow, John Dixon. This for Roy Dengler, who's having knee replacement surgery. The following day, we have both of their dogs. And as Sue said, for those people in our congregation who are currently have and are recovering from COVID, including Debbie Cooper, Tom Lewis, Laura Bussey, and Anna Mae Butler. And I dropped one final pebble for all of the joys, celebrations, and sorrows here in the room and with those people on Zoom. Now I invite you to take a pause, a moment of silence, pause together to reflect on what has been heard. Well, it is we who support and pay bills for this place, Without your contributions and mine, we cannot have all of our wonderful programs and our social action concerns. We're just going to pass them in, up in the back. And Annette. Good morning. Oh, hello, hello, hello. As most of you know, Tom, Lewis, and I were doing this service together. Tom has provided wonderful input for the service, but due to COVID, he has not this today. So it's me. And I care deeply about this congregation. So our congregation is in the process of re-evaluating who we are and what our future holds. Last month, we had a service on ministry. Several panelists shared their reflection about what ministry is. Basically, ministry is what each of us do consistently in order to serve our congregations, our organizations, our faith, our causes, and other people. It is essentially service. It is something we all do, ministers and laity alike. Today, we will be talking about the various forms of professional ministry, i.e., people who are actually being paid to do this heartfelt work of ministry. In most UU congregations, the day-to-day functioning of a congregation is not the responsibility of the laity, it is the responsibility of staff. Our current congregation is currently lay-led. That means we don't have a minister. Yet we do have religious professional staff that we pay to manage the day-to-day functioning of the fellowship. As you know, Bridget and Amy, along with Annette, Elizabeth, and all of the RE staff and child care workers have kept us going through COVID. As is thoroughly explained in the October newsletter, our ministerial relations team has recommended that we spend 2 years being lay-led with Amy and Bridget as the integral portion of an interim ministry team to provide constancy, coordination, and congregational engagement. This will anchor us as we emerge more fully from COVID isolation, discover who our current members are, and go through a discovery process. During this time, the congregations, with the assistance of the UUA and/or a local religious consultant, will plan and direct the inclusive and comprehensive process of deep listening, reflection, and discovery that will chart a future direction for this congregation. This was recommended by Ursula, the consultant who led our congregational sharing meeting last spring. Today's service is meant to lay the groundwork for a future discussion about the selection and recruitment of ministers and how that works within the UUA. So, what are our ministerial possibilities? No discussion of ministerial possibilities within the Unitarian Universalist Association could be fully understood without some brief historical perspective. Also, congregational polity is intricately connected with the way the Unitarian Universalist Congregations Association hires and calls our minister. So before enumerating the types of ministers, let's briefly discuss these two factors, history and congregational polity. What is that? Changes in England during the period of the Reformation were not just about theology, what people believed, but also about power and control. Who got to decide and how they made those decisions. Just as those reformers immigrated to the New World for theological freedom, they also forged a new country and rebelled against the authority of hierarchies, both religious and political. Out of this revolutionary spirit and culture, the Congregationalist denomination was formed. This new denomination emphasized the right and the responsibility of each organized congregation to determine its own affairs without having to submit these decisions to the judgment of any higher human authority. This congregational policy means that each individual church is regarded as independent and autonomous. Decades later, portions of the Congregationalists morphed into the Unitarian Association and carried with it the core principle of this congregational polity. In the 1960s, the Unitarians and Universalists merged in today's Unitarian Universalist Association. It is no small consequence that the Unitarian Universalists stand in a tradition of congregational policy of almost 4 centuries. While many Protestant churches and Catholic parishes are assigned ministers and priests by bishops or their equivalent, we choose our own ministers. So fast forward to Humboldt County, 2022. What is our next step in deciding our ministerial future? while we are unsure of what will happen, we do know that it is us, the humble Unitarian Universalist Association congregation, who will make that decision. We have the sole power. So, what is ministry within the UUA? I mean, yes, we have the sole power to decide, and there is a larger structure. And in the Unitarian Universalist, there are what's called fellowship ministers. Now, somebody interested in becoming a minister in some denominations can just go in and say, listen to me preach. My father did that, okay, and formed a congregation. Here, we could do that if we wanted to. However, there's a lot of training that goes into being a minister. And so the Unitarian Universalist ministers go through this vetting process called fellowshipping. After a person receives a BA, they can apply to various theological schools, two of which are Unitarian Universalists. One is Star King, and the other is, Lombard, right? Okay, and actually, at one point, Harvard was one of them. Harvard was formed Unitarian. So while they go through a graduate program to receive a Master's of Divinity, they apply to be considered for fellowshipping with the UUA. In other words, is this some flake? Is this person really committed to it? So they apply, they do a candidacy. Would you make a good minister if you were fully trained? And then throughout their education and their internships and their chaplaincies and stuff, they are constantly evaluated. And then after a certain point in their education, they get what's called permission to go out. They're not fellowship yet, but permission to go out and to preach in a congregation. When we had Dennis Reynolds. Dennis Reynolds was in his final stages. He had not received, he had tentative fellowshipping, but not the fellowshipping, the actual fellowshipping. And he was a wonderful minister. We wanted to keep him. And his sister-in-law got a terminal brain cancer and he had to go elsewhere. I'm still in contact with him. So at this stage, they're eligible to go out and covenant with a congregation, apply to be their minister. In their training process, they do a lot of practicing preaching in various different congregations. So, so once a person gets to the point that they can go out and apply to a congregation, the Unitarian Universalists have this big office, mostly online, and a coordination system that the ministers can look at what congregations are out there, and congregations can look at what ministers are looking for jobs. And basically a congregation such as us does this thing called a congregational record. It's an extensive process of discovery, which we will be doing during these next year or so. And it includes the demographics of the area, the history of the church, what our budgets are, what our demographics are. It's a massive document, and which has to be updated, as it was last updated 3 years ago. So, but when we put this document together, we have to know what it is we're looking for. We have to put that in the document. So these are some of the options that we would have on looking for a minister. The first type of minister is what's called a called or settled minister. And we have never had a called minister or a settled minister. These are usually full-time. It's akin to the congregation marrying a minister, an extensive selection process and an extensive search and a lot of interviews and stuff. And then the search committee will work in strict confidentiality. No one except the search committee ever knows who applied. That's one of the things that happens in a search. So, and the search committee, it is an honor to serve on a search committee. And it's a heck of an obligation. It's really a wonderful growth process, and I recommend it for everyone. And, but so with a called minister, they are hired or married, accepted by the congregation, not by the board, by the congregation. So the congregation selects the search committee and does the search and hires the minister. And it is not for a specific term. It's an open term, it's a marriage, and they are on equal status with the board on running the fellowship, okay? So all of the other types of ministry are a different kind of ministry called contract. And there's various different kind of contract ministries. A contract minister is they usually do a modified search, which we have done in the past. And then the search committee to the board, and the search committee is selected primarily by the board with some input from the congregation. But then the board, the search committee goes to the board and says, this is the one we're recommending. The board says yay or nay. So the board hires the minister, and it is on a contract, year-to-year contract or 2-year contract or whatever. And the minister is an employee rather than a partner with. So all of our ministers have been contract ministers. We would have called Brian, and Brian said, because you can have a contract minister and then decide, hey, we really want to keep this person, and then go ahead and call them, have a marriage, if you will. But the contract ministers are like for a specific time period, and the different types of ministers are, there's regular contract ministers, which we've had. There's developmental ministries who often will be, the congregation will be assisted by the UUA in finding someone who can help sort out the pieces and get us in a transition, and that a developmental ministry could go on to be our minister. There's interim ministry, and let me go a little bit into what interim ministries are. Tom has shared a lot of information with me about interim ministers. They've had extra training and education beyond seminary to serve a congregation in transition. The usual situation for an interim is to be contracted after a settled minister, that's a called minister, leaves, and there's a transition between. Now, called ministers can be there for years. I was introduced to Unitarian Universalism in First Church San Diego, and our ministers were there, a husband and wife team, for 25 years. So after that, there's a real shakeup, and don't think they've gotten over it yet. We've been gone 20 years. Interims can serve during times of change, confusion, upheaval, frequently after short times that contract ministers have served, like us. Interims are trained to help stabilize the congregation, clarify what's next for them. In short, it is a time for church members and leaders to step back and examine what has been learned and to focus on a new direction. Interims are specifically trained to facilitate that process. And the UUA recommends 2-year terms for interim, important to build relationships and all that, and they're not allowed to stay with the congregation past 2 years. And it is my understanding that the UUA assists congregations in matching available interim ministers with congregation. About 10 years ago, Joy Atkinson, who, by the way, decades ago was ordained in this congregation, she served as a modified interim minister for our congregation after Reverend Dennis Reynolds had to leave. She had a wealth of experience and worked 1/3 time, coming up for 10 days each month from the Bay Area. She helped us get Brian Jessup, who was our beloved minister for 6 years. Okay. So during the next few months, we're going to be taking stock of many issues, including what we want in the term of professional ministry. For now, let's dream a bit. So think on put on your thinking caps. What are the various things you want a minister to do? Raise your hand if you're in the room and call out your 1 or 2 word response. No long things. And those of you on Zoom can put them in the chat. So anybody?
Pastoral care.
Pastoral care.
Community representation.
Community representation.
Inspiration.
Inspiration.
Collaboration with staff and small groups.
Collaboration with staff.
Build community.
Build community.
Build community.
Foster or nurture spirituality.
Nurture and foster spirituality.
Connect with youth.
Connect with youth.
Thought-provoking sermons.
What? What?
Thought-provoking sermons.
Thought-provoking sermons.
Insightful sermons.
Insightful sermons. Inspiring. Anything else on Zoom? Boy, it's quite a laundry. Oh, yes. Sense of humor. Yes.
Interactive sermons.
Interactive sermons. Yeah, that's a pretty cool list. It's kind of like all the duties that a parent has to have, right?
Grow out the congregation.
Grow out the congregation, right? How many? Oh.
Stay around.
Stay around.
Stay.
Commitment to stay, and somebody who likes Humboldt County. Okay. You know, that's a lot. How many people do you think it would take to do all of those things?
And
Reality check. Not all ministers are adept at fulfilling all the various roles a minister is expected to fulfill. As a congregation, we will need to decide not just we want a minister. We need to decide what aspects of ministry we want in a minister, and which of these roles can be delegated to someone else on a ministry team or to laity. In many larger churches, there are multiple ministers. A ministry team could consist of 1 or more ordained ministerial interns, membership professionals, religious exploration leaders for both youth and adult, In a smaller congregation such as ours, we might have a part-time minister and a 3/4 or full-time membership professional and or director of religious exploration. Between the various members of the team, plus lay leadership, all the expected aspects of ministry could be attained without looking for just that one special person and expect them to be all things. So we have to decide what things a minister has to do and how we can augment those. Another reality check. We are not the only congregation without a minister, not the only one that is struggling. Christine Purcell, the UUA Transition Program Manager, in other words, the top person in the Unitarian Universalist Association who helps ministers and congregations get together, recently included this in an email to leaders in our congregation. And I quote, "We are in uncharted waters as the tremendous upheaval in the world has brought the great resignation to ministry and to all the helping professions. We've had more ministers leaving ministry and fewer ministers entering ministry or searching for positions in the parish setting than ever before. I hope this is a blip and not a trend. It's easy to imagine that stress and shifting priorities caused by the pandemic, global climate chaos, and living in a late-stage capitalistic oppressive culture contribute to the unpredictable endings to ministry." And she goes on to say, "Yet our ministries go on and they matter so much. UUA staff is encouraging leaders in congregation which find themselves unexpectedly without professional ministry partners or unable to afford ministry partnership at the level to which they are accustomed, to think about what they need the most and start there. What does the congregation need the most? What are the top 3 things a professional ministry partner could bring? How can lay people share the ministry? Around what essential skills or functions should lay people center their support of a shared ministry? If full-time ministry is not accessible or sustainable, start with part-time ministry and stabilize. That's where it would be. If a congregation finds a good match in a part-time minister, they can increase the percentage of time if that's sustainable and agreeable to the minister and leadership. Congregations can call a contract minister after a couple of years together if a good match is made. Contract to call is an approach to called ministry which is easier on congregations and more affordable than the traditional interim settled ministry. If a congregation prefers to be lay-led or simply ends up being lay-led for a time, leadership should shore up the worship and pastoral care teams for the work ahead. Prioritize relationship and care over dazzling programs as the congregation comes out of the hardest of the pandemic. End quote. Another reality check. Even though the UUA is certifying ministers now as interim qualified with minimal training, there are none to be had. The days when you could get a part-time experience interim is past. They are now basically full-time. Congregations are even being asked to pay for their housing for the 2 years they're there. So we have our work cut out for us. And together we will endeavor to be supportive, creative, and the vibrant congregation that nurtures each one of us. Together we can manifest great things. We will need volunteers to lead some of these small group discussions. Please let the board or the Ministerial Relations Committee know your availability. You can do this simply by notifying Bridget. And everyone, please participate fully in this process. Join me in this exciting journey of transformation. And now, thank you. I hope that answered some questions. And I encourage all of you, it's my understanding at this point that there will be a congregational meeting after the service next week with the budget proposal, the staffing proposals, and all that will be done at that time. And great progress has been made on all of the above. So it is time to sing and rejoice, right? So hymn number 395, we'll play it through once and then we'll sing it 2 or 3 times. And if somebody wants to play around with it, have fun, but please keep your mask on while singing and up. So by Rebecca Savage, The Promise and the Practice. Spirit of life, spirit of love, we have gathered under the banner of a shared faith. We are born of a welcoming grace that extends and receives love. We are touched by the ways we have fallen short of who we strive to be. And we are here. We are reborn, forged by a greater courage. Let us move from this place, encouraged and refreshed for the journey ahead. And now we'll sing, Go From Here in Peace, Go in Love. Alameka. Oh. Amen. And blessed be.